Tales of KLeavin, The Fall of Blackstone. Chapter 1. The Welcome That Wasn't. The Blackstone Keep loomed ahead, its towering walls bathed in the golden glow of the setting sun. A fortress built to withstand the ages, it was said to be a beacon of hope against the dark forces spreading across KLeavin. But not all beacons shine with truth. Andrea, the elven magic user, rode beside her companions, weary from the road. Her silver-white hair caught the dying light as her sharp eyes studied the castle before them. This place, it feels safe. We should rest here, at least for the night. Chad, the half-orc ranger, snorted in disbelief. His emerald green skin darkened in the dimming light, his muscles tense as he scanned their surroundings. Safe? You trust a smiling face just because it's framed in torchlight? I trust my gut, and my gut says something's off. Larry, a towering half-orc fighter, nodded. Chad's right. A warrior learns to read a place, and this one reads wrong. Bucky, their half-human, half-dwarf companion, chuckled. I don't know, lads. I see ale, a warm hearth, and roasted venison. What's not to trust? Catlin, the wise half-elf cleric, exhaled softly. Suspicion and hunger make for uneasy bedfellows. Let's enter, but keep our wits about us. The grand hall of Blackstone was a sight to behold. Tapestries of forgotten wars, flickering candlelight, and a feast laid out before them. Lords in fine robes welcomed them with warm words and full goblets, yet unease settled like a mist over half the party. Then the betrayal came, a single moment of distraction, and suddenly black-armored guards seized Larry and Bucky, dragging them into the darkness below. Andrea, Chad, and Catlin found their chamber doors locked, weapons stripped away. They took them, Andrea hissed, pacing the small chamber. We have to get out, Chad growled, fists clenched. Told you. Now we fight our way out, or we die in this pit. Blackstone was no sanctuary. It was a trap. And the master of the castle? No mere lord, but a servant of Vector, the Lich Lord of KLeavin, torches flickered dimly in the damp corridors of Blackstone's dungeon. Andrea, Chad, and Catlin moved with urgency, their breaths shallow as they pressed against the cold stone walls. Somewhere below, Larry and Bucky were being held, but their captors were no ordinary men. Andrea placed her palm against the heavy iron door barring their path, whispering an incantation. "Elven light, bend to my will." A soft click echoed as the lock disengaged. Chad smirked, retrieving his bow. "Magic's handy. Now, let's find our weapons before they find us." They crept through the fortress, the distant sound of footsteps keeping them on edge. Reaching the armory, they barely had time to rearm themselves before a patrol rounded the corner. "No avoiding this," Catlin murmured, gripping her mace. "We stand and fight." The battle was swift, but brutal. Andrea's magic crackled through the halls, bolts of arcane fire searing through their enemies. Chad's arrows found their marks, while Catlin's divine energy shielded them from harm. With the gods fallen, they pressed on, rushing downward into the depths of the dungeon. Low growls echoed in the darkness. Something unnatural awaited them. The air in the dungeon was thick with the stench of decay. Chains rattled in the darkness, and a deep, guttural snarl sent shivers down their spines. A hulking creature emerged, a monstrous, wolf-like beast with eyes burning red with unnatural fury. It was no mere animal. This was a cursed guardian of the Lich's domain. Andrea raised her staff, chanting an incantation. "Flames of the Everlight! Consume!" A burst of fire shot forth, illuminating the dungeon as it struck the beast's hide. The creature howled in fury, but charged undeterred. Larry's voice rang out from behind a locked cell. "We're here! Get us out before that thing tears you apart!" Catlin muttered a prayer, her hands glowing with divine energy as she sent a bolt of radiant light into the beast's flank. Chad rolled to the side, loosing an arrow that buried itself deep in the creature's shoulder. Bucky roared from his cell, shaking the iron bars. "Quit messing around and break us loose!" With a final arcane blast, Andrea sent the beast crashing to the ground. Chad rushed forward, slicing through the rusted lock with his blade. Larry and Bucky emerged, battered but ready. "Took you long enough," Larry grunted, gripping his reclaimed weapon. Chad smirked. "Would have been faster if you hadn't let yourselves get caught." "We'll settle this later," Andrea said. "Right now, we have to get out." But as they turned, a chilling laughter echoed through the stone halls. The shadows thickened and the air turned frigid. The master of Blackstone had arrived. The darkness pulsed as a hooded figure emerged from the far corridor. His skeletal fingers clutched a staff of obsidian, and his eyes burned with the unholy light of undeath. "Leaving so soon?" the figure rasped. "The master of Blackstone does not release his guests so easily." Andrea tightened her grip on her staff. "We're not your guests, necromancer." With a wave of his hand, the shadows coiled and twisted, forming into spectral warriors wielding wicked blades. Then, from the depths of the keep, a deafening roar shattered the air. A monstrous red dragon burst through the stone walls, its scales gleaming like molten rock. Its burning eyes locked onto them with a hunger that promised death. "We can't fight both," Catlin cried. Just then, a blinding light flared from the opposite corridor, and a powerful presence emerged. A warrior clad in golden armor, his eyes wise and ancient, strode forward. His voice resonated with power. "Fall back, heroes. I shall deal with the dragon." Andrea's eyes widened. There was something familiar about him, something more than human. But there was no time to question. With renewed determination, they turned and fled toward the castle gates, fighting their way through the necromancer's minions as the golden warrior clashed with the mighty red dragon behind them. As they escaped into the night, the sky burned with fire and magic. The war for KLeavin had just begun. The party fled through the twisting corridors of Blackstone, the roars of the red dragon echoing behind them. The cloaked warrior led them through hidden passages, his steps sure, as if he had traveled these paths before. "I don't trust this guy," Chad whispered, keeping a wary eye on their mysterious savior. "You don't trust anyone," Bucky grumbled. "Enough," Andrea snapped. "We'll question him when we're clear of this place." Ahead, the path split into 3 tunnels. The warrior hesitated before pointing left. "That way. Hurry." Behind them, an unholy screech filled the air. A new threat had joined the hunt. The dead were waking. The party raced through the dense forest, branches whipping against their armor and clothing as they ran. Behind them, the ruins of Blackstone still smoldered, its once mighty walls cracked and broken from the dragon's rampage. The night was dark, the moon hidden behind stormy clouds, but they had no time to rest. "We need to keep moving," Chad growled, glancing back. "They won't let us go that easily." Andrea panted, gripping her staff tightly. "Whoever that golden warrior was, he bought us time. But we're not out of danger yet." A distant howl echoed through the trees. Then another, and another. "They've sent hunters after us," Catlin murmured. She clutched her holy symbol. "Those aren't normal wolves." From the shadows, glowing red eyes flickered between the trees. Large, hulking shapes moved with unnatural speed. They were not wolves, but something far worse. Shadow stalkers, creatures infused with dark magic, their bodies shifting like living smoke. Larry unsheathed his greatsword. "Then let's kill them before they surround us." With a burst of movement, the shadow stalkers lunged. The forest erupted into chaos. Shadow stalkers poured from the darkness, their fangs snapping at flesh, claws slashing through armor. Bucky swung his axe, cleaving through the nearest beast, but it simply reformed from the shadows, its snarl growing deeper. "Oh, come on!" he cursed. "That ain't fair." Andrea raised her staff, channeling pure white fire, sending it streaking into the pack. One creature shrieked as it burned, turning to ash, but 3 more took its place. Chad rolled to the side, loosing arrows in rapid succession. "These things don't go down easy." Catlin, her mace glowing with divine radiance, slammed it into the ground. A shockwave of holy energy burst outward, forcing several creatures back. "We can't fight them all." Larry slashed through one, then another. "Then we run." With no other choice, the party broke into a sprint deeper into the wilds. The hunt was far from over.